All right, Penn State came out and blew out Buffalo just like everybody expected. It was a rout, 31-point line. Penn State wins 45-13. Just pretty much exactly what we thought the game would be like, right?
Took a while. Yeah. I was impressed with Buffalo.
Yes.
Buffalo really outplayed Penn State the whole first half, and then ran out of gas. Penn State made some big plays, but I think some concerns surfaced in this game, and it was a good thing that they were kind of playing Buffalo.
Yeah, James Franklin mentioned the phrase learning experiences, and that's what these games are. You know, Buffalo, you want to talk about respect.
Yeah.
Just in case you guys didn't see the number, Lance Leopold from Buffalo won 6 national titles in 8 years at Division III Wisconsin Whitewater. His record, Urban Meyer can't touch this. His record there was 109-6.
Yeah.
That guy can coach. You
Yeah.
can tell with the game plan they came in with that he can coach.
Yeah, very impressive. I mean, they kept the ball away from Penn State. Even the time of possession at the end is 42-17. Now, some of that was skewed by Penn State had a defensive touchdown and some one-play scores, quick scores, and had to put their defense back out on the field. So, but Buffalo had a lot of first downs. They ran the ball pretty tough against Penn State, found some holes, and ran a couple good screen plays. It was a well-coached team. It was really a pleasure to watch a team like Buffalo maximize their talent and their opportunity.
Yeah, and yet, the final score is 45-13 because when you talk about the talent differential, the big playability, the explosiveness, Penn State's throwing the ball deep down the field to receivers who are wide open. And the second half, it was 38-3 Penn State in the second half. So the John Reed interception started it, but was this just a case of the far more talented team started taking over with its talent?
I think so. I mean, you noticed even when Buffalo was establishing himself in the first half, Penn State was going to almost a 3 deep in terms of their defensive substitution. So I think that took a toll, and I want to give them credit for that because, you say, boy, Buffalo was really a well-coached team. But on the other side, I think you do have to give Penn State acknowledge that they used a lot of people and eventually wore Buffalo down. Penn State clearly has a weapon with Jordan Stout. We've now seen that 8 more touchbacks. But I think that, the Penn State's offensive line, again, I think is not where it needs to be, and the running game is not where it needs to be.
Right. So there was a lot of good in the second half. If you watch this game, 38-3 speaks for itself. Sean Clifford had a lot of nice plays. So, but let's focus a little bit more on the first half because one of the common traits of the James Franklin era has been this slow start. This first half of feeling out opponents. We've seen this for years, going back to the beginning of his tenure. And then they figure things out at halftime, and they come out and they're a different team in the second half. Now, that's fantastic. That shows that the coaches are really good at adjustments. But it also shows that they're not necessarily fully ready to play and adjust in the first half. And this has been something that's gone on for several years. James talked about it for 3 or 4 minutes after the game. What do you make of that tendency that has really been a consistent trait here?
Yeah, I'd like to see the numbers because I think there were times when they were scheming well at the beginning of games. But when you look at, for example, the Rose Bowl, and they would make these comebacks and make these adjustments. And he talked about against better opponents, they need to be able to not just go into halftime and make these adjustments, but adjust between series. In the first quarter earlier. I think that's something. Obviously, he does a good job of self-scouting and identifying what their trends and weaknesses are. So, yeah.
All right. I'm going to write about this in the Mirror on Monday. I'm going to throw this question out, or throw this statement out to you. I'm glad next week is the last time they're going to play Pitt for a while. I personally, and I know you've done this a long time, and maybe some Penn State fans will completely disagree with this, but I think a lot of Penn State fans will completely agree with this, that I don't know that the Pitt-Penn State series really provides on an every-year basis what we all would like it to provide like it did in the 80s. So it'll be great this week. It's a rivalry. I'm glad we're not going to see Pitt for a while.
Well, I will miss the game. I know the series certainly it's not annual. They're in different leagues. It doesn't seem to mean that much to Penn State for sure anymore. I think Pitt, it will always be a bigger game.
It's their Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. Today was their Super Bowl too, and they weren't ready to go in the first half. So I'll miss the memories of the series, as I think a lot of Penn State people, a lot of Pitt people will. This series still stokes more emotion in a lot of the fans than maybe any other one.
Yeah.
So I will miss this game. I probably won't cover any more of these games. They're talking about if they would get together, it wouldn't be till like 2030. So I'll miss the game.
Yeah, it's a fun atmosphere. Don't get me wrong. My point is, if you're under the age of 40, this series doesn't mean anywhere near what it means to if you're over the age of 50.
Well, they played annually till 92, and then they threw 4 more games at them from 97 to 2000, and then 4 more from 16 through this year. So if they don't play until 2030, that means there will be only 8 games in 38 years.
Yeah.
So
you've lost you've lost 2 generations there, really.
Yeah. So I can't fight City Hall in this. Both schools have to live with where they are, and for better, for worse, and for a lot of ways, it is better for Penn State. But in the Big Ten, that's certainly been a very stable home. But I'll miss the game.
Yeah, next week will be fun. Maybe Narduzzi will let his players talk. We'll see. I don't know. All right, for Neil.
I will throw one more thing in. I will never like 3 minutes to go in the game with your first-string quarterback at 35-13. I just don't think it's necessary on first down to throw a touchdown pass.
Okay, so let's get into that just a moment here, because at 79-7 last week against Idaho, James Franklin, on his own, without being asked about it Tuesday, seemed to kind of go on the defensive a little bit, that you don't want games to go like that in college football, but you also want to let your backups play. You want to let Nick Urey run the ball. You want to let Will Levis throw. So the fine line, the balance of just letting your kids play. Look, I didn't like the long touchdown pass with 3 minutes to go, but James Franklin, that's kind of been his MO, whether it's icing the kicker up 56-0, or, he's going to go for the jugular.
Okay. But I just don't think it's necessary for a fan base that, by and large, has grown up with not piling it on when it's not. It's one thing if it's backups and it's Will Levis on third down throwing that ball. I would have no problem with it. I'm just saying I didn't like it. Get better on 4th and 5 when it really matters against Ohio State, rather than doing that.
As Brent Musburger would say, that touchdown meant a lot to some people. All right, for Neil, I'm Corey. Thanks for joining us.